what's up? We are back. Another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Back on Mindset Mondays. Bro, this has to be like, honestly, one of the my favorite things that I do on the podcast and like social media content is just like the golden nuggets that come from the conversations I think are amazing. I kind of jumped into that, but Mindset Mondays, I have my partner in crime here, Justin Thorstad, with me, who's a brainiac when it comes to personal growth and development. So today we're going to talk about what you practice grows stronger. And there's a big difference between perfection, right? And practice and growing stronger with it. But I think we can unravel this topic. It's a challenge that it's commonly... there's a common misconception between practice. Okay, we got to practice the right things. We gotta make sure that we're on the right track about, even the path that we choose to take, right, on a regular basis. So we're gonna break it all down. Justin, it's a pleasure to have you again on another Mindset Mondays.
Yeah, man, I love being here. I love the content. This is one of the highlights of my week for sure. I enjoy this process a lot. So, yeah, man. The simple fact is, practice makes the master.
Yeah.
And the question then becomes, what are you mastering?
Practice makes the master.
Yeah, so I mean, there's really a couple stages here. So phase one really is philosopher. That's like you learn something new and you understand the concept and you can probably even regurgitate it and sound intelligent, right?
Yeah.
But then step two is like initiate. You have to actually implement and do something with that information and get into motion. You've got to practice something. And only by doing that and implementing and executing on it can you get to level 3, which is mastery. Yeah. And what I really want people to understand is really this, and this might be kind of long-winded, so bear with me, but it's all super important to get the full understanding. So I'll do my best to articulate and communicate this. And that is, most people don't get into action and implement new behaviors, new mindsets, new ways of being, because they don't feel like they're going to be successful at it.
Yeah.
And so there's like, why even bother? I suck, I'm insufficient, da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, wrong. And if you pay attention to those thoughts, how long have you practiced those thoughts? I mean, really, if you break down your results in life, the size of your bank account, whether that's 0 or full, if you break down your health, your relationships, first of all, the relationship with yourself and therefore the relationship with others, your honey, your kids, your friends. Like, if you take a look at your results, it's only because you have a story of yourself that fits those results that you've practiced and rehearsed. Because it's very simple. That which you impress upon the mind must be expressed through the body. And so if you look at all your results and just realize you've practiced that for so long, and look how successful you are.
Even if it's and by practice, I mean, even if it's at an unconscious level, right? It's still happening. Totally. So it's not even intentional practicing. A lot of times it's just wiring. It's reactional.
Yeah, well, it's that conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have the results that they have because they practice the story of who they think they are and who they think they're not since a very young age, and they just never updated that software. They've never updated those stories. And so I want people to really see that if you look at your result, and let's say your finances, let's say you're broke and you have no assets. You've practiced that mindset that you're not worthy or deserving of that. Yeah. So much that you've mastered it and you're successful at your story. You have to be. Your brain is hardwired to be for your survival. Like, it's biological. You have to be right about what you believe. And that's why you have the results that fit the story of what you believe. It's in perfect harmony with itself. Yeah. And so most people think that, oh, I can't change, I can't be different, I can't build wealth, I can't have a new body, a new health, and a new... It's like, no, that's wrong. You absolutely can. Because your brain doesn't care what you put in it. If you put it in there enough, it's going to take hold. Yeah. But the question is, how much are you willing to practice until you get there?
The need to be right is also a big thing that stops that practice.
Totally.
Fear of I'm not gonna jump into something new. I'm not gonna push myself outside my comfort zone. I'm not gonna aim for anything bigger because I don't know how to do it. Like, fuck, well, I didn't know how to walk when I was born. Like, I knocked my head a couple thousand times.
Right.
I mean, that explains a lot.
Riding a bike.
But, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but it's somewhere along the line, we adopt that fear of failure. We adopt that fear that creates a wall for us to start venturing out there and then trying new things a lot of times, right? The crazy thing is we call them engrams. Anytime in psychology, like anytime something happens that's substantial, right? That's of a big impact. It'll create an engram. It'll create just a new program, something that's going to trigger a behavior, a reaction, a response, right? The crazy thing is that we carry these through our lives, and we create new ones, right? But a lot of times we don't have like a conscious driver behind them. Like they just happen, right?
Yes.
So we're being driven by a lot of stuff that it's not even right of our path. It's not even part of the path that we want to take.
No.
And it's all the actions that we're taking towards it. They become unconscious. They become just I don't want to say monotonous, but what's the word I'm looking for here?
Mundane. It's certainly predictable.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the norm. It's conforming, right, to stuff that's happening around us, not necessarily the stuff that we can, actually, create out of will. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble trying to.
That's okay. But what I do want to add is that those engrams, I believe that the vast majority that we have are negative in nature. Because whenever we go for something new, especially as a child,
they keep you in a box per se.
Because what happens is when the mind and body experience something negative in nature, it's like the mind and body take a snapshot at and store that as information to avoid it in the future. It's a survival thing, and I believe it's part of the limbic brain, part of the most ancient part of our brain that is hardwired for survival. Yeah. I mean, think about it. You have to be right, yes? We go back 10,000 years, and you had to be right about which berries to pick and eat, because if not, you're going to die. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? What foods to eat, what foods not to eat. So, and typically, that conditioning has been developed through negative consequences. And so here we are as adults still operating from programming that we were given genetically and also through experience as children on what we were taught about who we are and our place in the world by the people that raised us, who nurtured us the most. Or nurtured, meaning, whoever raised you.
Yeah,
maybe it wasn't nurturing,
Fed,
right?
You got some food somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, totally. So, but what I really want people to realize is that, practice makes the master. And so what have you been practicing, even as a child, that you've mastered so much, though, that your conscious mind doesn't have to think about it?
Are you practicing the right things that are going to take you to that place that you want to get to, right?
Yeah. And I just want people to see, like, all the results you have, it's because you've practiced a way of thinking and feeling about a certain thing that's produced the result. And look how successful you are at producing that result unconsciously. And you'd have to agree then, if that were true, which obviously is, it's self-evident, that means you can practice anything and master that.
Yeah.
So what now, through true choice and free will, what is it you want to practice?
How do you figure that out? How do you come to terms with, and I know we had a conversation about clarity and about visualization, about, coming in from, triggering everything from within and that's a rabbit hole, conversation. But in a quick overview, how do you figure out what the right thing to practice is?
Sure. There's a bit of trial and error in that, unfortunately, because all you got to take a look at is your results. Is this a result that I have in my life right now what I want? No. Okay. So let me just become aware of, and again, we talked a lot about meditation to become aware of.
Yeah.
What are those stories and emotions that correspond with those belief systems? What is my self-image in such a way that's producing that result? Now, if I can become aware of that, and it's not necessarily required, all I got to think about is, what is the other result that I want? And how would I have to think about myself in order to produce that result? How would I have to feel about myself in order to produce that result that doesn't currently fit? And then, what can I cultivate as a daily practice to remind myself, because neurons that fire together wire together, to remind myself that I'm becoming that personality that's capable of producing that personal reality. And notice the judgment on how long you think it should take you, because what the hell do you know? Are you willing to practice until it's made manifest? Yeah, that's really the case. Do you have quit in your game?
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's crazy how easy that comes, right? To have the willpower or the lack thereof to quit while we're going through the ringer, while we're going through the trench work. Man, I see it so often, especially in the entrepreneur space, where people get into it and they start taking shots, right, aiming at different things, and they don't give things. Most people don't give things enough time to work.
Yeah.
They'll jump into certain actions, certain activities. They'll have expectations. They'll have all the theoretical portion lined up. I mean, the philosopher, like you, for example,
Yeah.
the same stuff that we were talking about earlier, but they'll have that philosophy part dialed in, right? And then when it comes to taking action, like the tenacity is not there, or they spend, in this one I'll speak for myself. I know I spent a lot of time practicing the wrong things, doing the wrong things in my business, stuff that wasn't really giving me results, or pushing me, to that next level as fast as other things. And then I would make a pivot and then just kind of fine tune. Instead of sitting there, crying why I spent 6 months doing that other shitty thing that I wasn't, taking me anywhere, I would just take the next one and double down. But it's understanding, right, that we have the ability to come in and then take, one, fine tune whatever's not working, right? Look at your results, like you said. You look at your results, and if you've gotten results, if you're not dead, you've gotten results.
Totally.
Like you have some type of result.
Is a result.
Yeah, what do you have? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I like what the results are.
If it's good or bad, that's it's still a result.
It's irrelevant.
Right?
Yeah. What's the result?
Yeah, and it's coming from a set of actions. So if we're so good at getting the bad results, why can't we just switch the actions and then get better results?
Yeah. Well, and more importantly, what's driving those actions,
Yeah.
right? What are the belief systems, your BS,
Yeah.
and your self-image that's driving that behavior? Now, sometimes people's behavior is
Yeah.
avoidance and deflection, or like they call procrastination or lazy, which isn't true. Those are just nice little fluffy, surfacey definitions to keep you safe and not responsible, and hold you hostage and victim to yourself. Like I coach entrepreneurs as well, realtors and otherwise. And it's fascinating to me. I give people a strategy, a process that matches their strengths, that matches their personality, and there's still elements they won't do. And then come back for accountability. How'd it go? I didn't do it. Well, why not? Oh, I got distracted. Or da-da-da-da-da. It's like, you're so full of shit. Why don't you just own the fact that there was something there that you were afraid of, that didn't fit your self-image of who am I? I'm going to be rejected. Da-da-da-da. Like, inspect your bullshit, your belief systems.
Yeah.
Own it. And just that way you can have the awareness of it. So next time you do go get into action, you notice that voice. You notice that insecurity come up and you catch it and go, there it is.
And you do something about it.
I'm going to
Like,
practice
that's the biggest thing.
thinking and feeling differently.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to practice.
Yeah.
I'm going to practice a new personality that'll create a new personal reality.
And here's the thing about that, right? It's not just about creating this alter ego space where we're just like, okay, I feel better about not doing shit. No, it's about taking that new image and that new empowered space and doing something with it, right? Your results are going to change. The old adage, you got to do to have to be, right? It's completely wrong. You have to be first. You have to be that person.
Be, do, have.
Yeah, be, do, have. You have to be that person that can do and then have. But when we say be, do, have, it's being at an internal level, at a mental level, or a mindset level.
Absolutely.
You're talking confidence. You're talking owning your personal power, right?
Yeah.
Per se. Now, it's having a sense of that is going to give you a sense of the direction that you need to have, or the actions that you need to take, right? When you have a sense of directions or the actions that you need to take, you have a sense of, keyword sense, right? Not absolute clarity, but you have a sense of what you need to practice on. And there's gonna be shit that we I don't know, go at it for 2-3 months, and this is not really panning out. But we always have the ability to pivot. That's what's so amazing, right? We have the ability to pivot and then actually do something with what we're learning, the path that we're taking, the stuff that we're tackling on. We can take that and then practice on the right stuff, and get better at it.
Well, and you don't know what the right thing is to practice necessarily until you get into motion with it, and then have some awarenesses and make some pivots, adjustments. Like you said, we always say, give yourself permission to have a shitty, rough draft. Go start practicing something.
That's like the definition of an entrepreneur.
Right. And people say, well, yeah, but I don't want to go start practicing something and then master something that's wrong. It's like, don't worry, you will. But people don't want to mess it up.
How many times have you heard, I'm absolutely an entrepreneur, but I don't want to launch my business until I have it all figured out.
Oh, man.
Fuck on.
I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And not to think about it, it's like you can't possibly know all the answers and the perfect path until you get into action and realize where your plan was faulty because you didn't take certain things into consideration, and you wouldn't have been able to because you haven't yet had an experience of that.
That's where practice comes in, right?
You have to take the plan and initiate and implement it to find out where you were insufficient deficient in your thinking.
Yeah. And just to make it absolutely clear, if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what area, what industry, what your specialty is. It does not matter. You're gonna practice a lot of stuff that you don't need. You're gonna practice a lot of stuff that okay, cool, fuck. I wish I wouldn't have done that for 3 months. It's part of the beast. It's part of the nature, right? However, we pivot. We find the stuff that does work. We take that to a next level, and then you become your master at it. You're gonna be the best person that you can be, right, at that particular skill. But you have to come in and then put the hours in, put the work in, put the reps in.
Well, if you take a look at let's take Tiger Woods as an example.
Yeah,
the man obviously has an incredible swing. Yeah. But don't you know, he's changed his swing a couple times, a small element of it, and how many hundreds of thousands of swings he had to take to remaster a different swing, and you should be a professional of yourself in your own life too, because they're your results. Say, well, I'm not a golfer, or I'm not in martial arts or a sport. And it's so fucking what? Yeah. Well, how are you mastering your financial literacy? Yeah. Building wealth, your health. You know what I mean? Your emotional state, because there's no separation between your emotions and your biology. How about your marriage, or the fact that you're single and you want to have a marriage, or you know what I mean? You got to master something. And if you end up mastering the wrong thing, you don't get the results. That's okay. You can go back to the drawing board, make some subtle shifts, and go practice and master that.
One thing that surprises me, that gets me, right, and this is crazy if you think about it. We're driving to work. I don't know. We have 2 routes, right? If you learn of a route that's shorter, that's more efficient, that's gonna be, it doesn't matter if you've taken the other one for 10 years, right? But if you find a shortcut to it, to work, to that drive where you don't have to commute, put up with the traffic, put up with whatever you want, and then you make it there in I don't know, in 15 minutes less. And are you not gonna take that? Are you not gonna implement that? That, and then, I mean, if something else opens up, you're gonna take that one too, and something that's better, right? So we look for it on a regular basis. We look for that kind of improvement. We look for that kind of result, right?
Yeah. Cut the fat, get to the direct result as fast as possible.
Exactly. So the desire is there. Why not be intentional about it and practice on the stuff that really makes a difference in our lives?
Well, and using your analogy about the drive home, let's say, don't you know, I mean, how many people have experienced, you're on the phone talking, you're on your way home, and the next thing you know, you pull in the driveway and you're like, how the fuck did I get here?
How to get here, yeah.
Because you practice it so many times that your mind and body know how to do it better than your conscious awareness. Yeah. You know what I mean? Look what you mastered. And if you master that, you'd have to agree you can master anything. Yeah. And if I can just impress upon people one thing that you would really want to master the most above anything else, patience and grace with yourself throughout the process. If you're hating on you, what you resist persists.
Oh, yeah.
And so to master something takes 2 elements, effort and grace. They're like 2 wings of a bird, baby. You got to have both. You cannot have one without the other. That's sustainable. Yeah. You got to have some grace with yourself. You got to have some patience. You got to love on you through the process. You're going to make mistakes. And mistakes are good. They're necessary as an element to learn more information, to be in formation. How do you get that without making mistakes? Yeah. You know what I mean? But we've just been conditioned as children, mistakes are bad. Yeah. Remember in grade school, when we'd get those red marks in the report?
Mistakes. That's what happens.
Penalized for mistakes. And it's such a shame, because mistakes should be celebrated.
Mistakes are oftentimes original thinking.
Yeah,
it's original thinking, and it's freedom of thought. It's a way of doing that, or something that you came about oftentimes in your own way, right? So it's being penalized for a mistake is like being penalized for originality in my opinion, right? People make mistakes.
I celebrate my mistakes, man. I love them. They're my best teachers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had some massive mistakes. At the end of the day, best lessons learned.
Exactly. Yeah. So since we were disciplined for our mistakes in the past,
it's part of growth.
Why are you still doing it now? That's who you were as a child. Yeah. But you're an adult now. Time to grow up. And I don't mean stop acting like a child, but grow up your consciousness. Yeah. Level that shit up. Yeah. And we talk a lot about our morning rituals. It's also a morning practice. What do you practice every single morning as a new personality to take that state of being into your day and do differently? Yeah. So how you think, how you feel is your state of being. How you behave or get into action, that's your doingness. So how you think, how you feel, how you behave, that's your personality. So what personality are you practicing every morning before you even suit up and show up and leave the house?
Yeah. And that's going to dictate, I mean, your actions. It's going to dictate what you do throughout the day, right?
Totally.
If you walk out of the house, I know I've had days where I don't know, you wake up and then something goes off, something goes wrong in the morning, and then it just kind of trickles into something else. By the time I get, walk out of the house, I'm feeling demotivated. I'm like, oh, fuck this. And it's normal, right? Like it happens. It happens. Most of my days, blissfully, are very, full of, positivity and a lot of great stuff. Sometimes though, I'll get that, that rain in my parade.
For sure.
And it just happens. It's one of those. But it's easy to get into that train of thought, that personality. When you're talking about who are you when you walk out of your house, who are you in the mornings? Like it's me adopting, like right now taking full responsibility for it. But it's me adopting that shitty or personality, right? That pessimistic side. That all right, cool. I mean, now I have it, and if I'm not aware of it, if I'm not careful. Like that's gonna drive my whole day. Like sometime throughout the day, I gotta switch that shit back.
Well, that's why the saying goes, like all results are predictable based on the conversation you have with yourself before you even get into action.
Yeah.
Because it is true, that conversation of like, okay, so today I'm supposed to do this X, Y, and Z in my business, and if you pay attention to yourself, notice that self-talk of like, oh man, I'm really scared about this. Why am I scared about this? Well, because what if they hang up on me? What if I get rejected? Da, 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 da. And then what happens? Oh, distractions. Oh, emails. Oh, text messages. And you never got around to the fucking calls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, so if you pay attention to that self-talk before you get into action, are you your best cheerleader? Do you have grace with yourself? If you are just in a shitty state and you go through your morning practice and you're still in a shitty state, can you have some grace and just accept that? Because if you can accept that, you'll take the energy off of it and then you can shift.
Yeah.
Right?
You can release it.
Yeah. If you're in resistance to yourself for being in a shitty state, now you're just going to be even more pissed off throughout your day. And then you're going to project that and vomit that onto people and displaced aggression, all kinds of dysfunctional traits.
Yeah. So be intentional about the practice who you are, of who you are. I mean, I think that's very important, right?
Yeah, but also the vision of who you desire to be. Because here's the deal. If you don't have a vision, and you're defining yourself by that vision and who you're becoming moment by moment, you're going to be left with the memories of the past. And if you're operating from memories of the past, you're going to be predictable in your future.
Yeah. What you practice grows stronger.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to, right? If we're practicing, and this is the crazy thing. If you're not aware that you can't practice, you're just completely screwed, right? But we have the
You must just be asleep at the wheel.
yeah, exactly. We're just asleep at the wheel. But we have the ability to understand that although we may not have all the talents, we can get better at things, right? Yeah. If you're not a great, public speaker, you can't get better at that. If you're not a great closer or a great salesperson, you can get better at that if you really want to, right? It comes down to that. What's driving me from within? Does that really line up to the person that I want to become? Does that really line up to the future that I want? Is that going to put a smile on my face? To me, one of the biggest things is joy. Anything that gives me joy, it's a good flag. You know what I mean? It's a good flag. It's something. It's permission to keep doing whatever that is. If it's something that I'm not enjoying, it's a red flag. Okay, come back, reassess it, maybe delegate that, automate, or do whatever it needs to do. But we have certain things, right? At the end of the day, we all have that choice. We can come down to the reality that we have a choice to move forward with things, right? We have a choice to pick and choose what we want to practice, what we want to get better at. It's incredible how dynamic we are as human beings, how dynamic the brain is, how easily, I don't want to say easily, let me backtrack, how well we can adapt to different challenges and skill sets and stuff that we didn't even think we could do, right? At the end of the day, it's coming into that state of practice. Practice who you are. Practice the personality that you're going to carry, the person that you want to become. Practice that, and that's going to lead into the effectiveness of the rest of the stuff that you come across.
Absolutely. And so people are like, okay, Raph, but what do I practice? Who do I want to become? Do yourself a favor. Just go sit on the edge of your bed and ask yourself one question. What ridiculously stupid things am I doing to screw up my life? And if you really wanted to know the answer to that question and not just utter the words, but actually speak it out to yourself, those answers will become so self-evident, it'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
You already know what you're doing to screw yourself up.
Yeah.
And if you really want to know, just ask yourself the question and give yourself that time and space. And then, okay, so I'm doing this. Maybe I'm drinking too much alcohol at night. Maybe I'm avoiding all the things that are uncomfortable to me that I know I've got to get into action on. Great. So let me just compile all of that and create its opposite. So I take care of my health. I'm mindful of what I put in my body. I am successful in business, and here's how I would think, and here's how I would feel. Write that down. Like, invest that time into yourself, right? And then when you have that written down, do yourself a favor and fucking put it on your bathroom mirror. You can't avoid it.
You got to remember it.
You've got to look at that thing a couple times a day, man. Right? Because most people brush their teeth in the morning and at night. So at minimum, you're in your bathroom twice a day, right? And then it's staring in the face. And then you got to make the conscious choice. Am I going to read this or am I not? Yeah. Because to say, no, I'm not going to read it because I'm in a pissy mood today. Okay, now what you're saying is I'm committed to my insufficiencies and I'm interested in growth. Yeah, that's not true. Okay, damn.
You're
I'll
back
read the
in
damn
default,
thing. You know, and you read it and you remind yourself. You fire those neurons again. Neurons that fire together, wire together. You're practicing that personality. Yeah. And so you got to resource yourself. You got to put things in front of your awareness to remind you. Why don't you do this? When you create that vision of who you desire to be and how you want to think and how you want to feel, why don't you set an alarm on your phone for every waking hour, 9 to 5, that it goes off every single hour. When the alarm goes off, that's your reminder, that's your cue. Oh, let me remind myself, who am I being right now versus who I desire to be? Like, work with you.
I did that forever, man. I mean, I'm talking probably a good I think about maybe 8 years ago. I was doing that every single day. I had an app, Todoist, and then it would just trigger an alert. And in that alert, I had my vision. I had who I was. The I am. I called it the I am. But I did that for a long, long time until like it just became one of those things. And yeah, sometimes, I mean, it was me going through the motions of just kind of reading it. But even when I did that, I would still get this emotional injection like towards the end of it. Like, all right, cool. I mean, I don't know, but I get goosebumps. Yeah. And inevitably, like that stuff came to pass. Of course, there was effort in it. There was, things that I had to pivot from and whatever. But like the constant reminder of the actions that I had to take, the person that I had to be to actually conquer those challenges or those goals was there, right? It's here's what happens. People go to a seminar, and they get super amped up. They're like, all right, cool, I'm going to do this vision board. And then they'll pour their heart and soul into, the vision board or the journal and writing things down and whatnot. And then they just stash it and forget about it. Yeah. We're dynamic beings, meaning that we're constantly changing.
Yeah, right? Growing, evolving.
Yeah, we're growing, evolving. Even if you think you're not, you are, right? I guarantee you, like you were not, if you're 30 years old now, you were not afraid about, personal finances when you were, maybe 15, right? Hopefully. But it's the same concerns were not hitting your mindset. We are always changing. It doesn't matter if you realize it or not. It's just part of nature. It's part of being a human being, right? Being a part of a social structure. So now with that in mind, like understanding that we do have the power to practice the things that we want to become great at. Right?
Absolutely. And again, we have the power to practice what we want to become. Yes. Yeah. And so the best advice I can give people is like, again, sit down and take stock of what are my results? Yeah. What thought processes, what mindset, what self-image, what belief systems have I been practicing so much so that drove certain behavior that produced the current results that I have? Yeah. And if you're willing to just be honest with yourself, not from a place of beat up, not seems like, oh yeah, look, see, I'm insufficient. Of course you're insufficient. And you can improve. That's so beautiful and wonderful. But if you're willing to be honest with yourself about, I own my results, I've created these, and look at how fucking successful I was at creating them. Yeah. I've mastered it. When you can own that, it's almost like you take the energy off of it and reframe it, recontextualize it into, great, look how successful I was. Now, that's not the result I want, but I was still successful in producing the result. And if I was successful at that, then I'd have to agree with myself, I can produce any result if I practice.
So
and that's like, to me, that's such exciting news. Like, I don't know what else would excite you if that doesn't. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely agree.
Anything's
It
possible then.
It opens up the whole menu, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
It opens up the whole menu.
Yeah, it's a la carte now. Just select what you want.
Now, let me ask you this question. What would you say to somebody who's, and I don't know, we'll get pragmatic on this before we start signing off, but what would you say to somebody? Well, yeah, I mean, if I practice, I can become a master at it, but I'm, 3'8" and I want to play basketball.
Hey, look at Spud Webb, man. That dude's the shortest person in NBA ever. You know what I mean? And made it pro. Like, it's not about how tall you are. That just gives you a physical advantage. But what if you can be the best 3-point shooter? What if you can make shit from the half court? Exactly. What if you can make the basket from anywhere in the you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, Michael Jordan was arguably the best basketball player of all time, yes? Yeah. And he was known for flying through the air and slam dunking. But what if he wasn't able to do that, but he was still able to make all the shots that he took? Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And there's a perfect example, basketball. I don't care how short you are. If you practice making that basket from anywhere on the court, like, you'd be unstoppable. And I don't care how tall you are. Because if anything, shorter, you could outmaneuver the guys that are tall. Yeah, you may not be able to slam dunk, but is that a prerequisite to be in the Hall of Fame? No.
Yeah, no, and then again, I mean, we become the master to the best of our abilities, right? Like, it's, at the end of the day, we're trying to master our own world, our own space. I can't master your space.
No, and why would you want to?
Exactly. It's not even.
You just want to master becoming the biggest and best version of you that you can conceptualize.
Exactly. The way that happens.
That's your only responsibility.
The way that happens is through practice. It's through intentional practice at everything that you're doing. So it's not about taking this whole thing, this practice thing out of context and blowing it out of proportion. And I mean, you can, I don't know, become a fucking rocket scientist, and well, you probably could, but it's figuring out what you want your path to look like, right? Being intentional about what you spend your time doing, and then really sticking with something for long enough so that it works.
Oh man.
And again, like, you're gonna make that thing. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get results, and it's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen to the best of your ability, to the best of whatever your efforts, the amount of effort that you put into it, works. If you half-ass it, you're gonna have half-assed results.
Totally.
At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah. But and if you're just not willing to quit, you'll get there. You'll get there eventually. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but so many people start to practice something, they don't get the result, and they're like, "Oh, see, I suck. There's no way I'm going to happen." It's like,
I knew it.
You just haven't practiced it enough. Keep going. I knew it. I knew I'd fail.
Yeah.
Like, what? You've practiced that mindset for how long? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Exactly. How long have you been knowing stuff?
Why don't you practice? I'm just not going to quit.
Yeah.
And then when you want to quit, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. Practice that mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm going to keep going until it's made manifest.
Yeah.
That's a mindset you could practice. Bro, I got no quit in my game.
What does that mean? Like, what does that?
That means I'm never going to throw in the towel.
Is that a word? Quit? Is that a word?
Quit? What?
Yeah. Is that in? It's not in my dictionary.
It's not my vocabulary. Like, it just keep going.
All right. So, practice makes the master. And when we're talking about the master, we're talking about your immediate realm, your immediate space, all right? You're going to become a master about anything that you practice in your own space. You can become a great fucking, entrepreneur. You can become a great, person who manages finances. You can be, all that stuff is doable if you practice the right things. Now, having the awareness to practice the right things takes a little bit of introspective and work.
Yeah, and reframe your relationship to mistakes as beautiful teachers instead of wrong or insufficiencies.
Understand that in the path of life, we're always going to be making mistakes. Mistakes are they're not a bad thing. That's why we call it practice, right?
They're there to help you pivot.
Dude, I mean, the fact that doctors practice, you should scare the fuck out of you every time you walk into hospital.
Law?
Yeah, exactly. It's a practice.
It's not medical mastery or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but yeah. So hopefully you guys liked that episode. Justin, where can somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, JustinThorstad.com. Thorstad's THORSTAD. Social media and Facebook. Of course, myself, 602-348-8534.
Boom! And if you want to get a hold of me, it's Rafael Cortez, CEO. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as Rafael Cortez, CEO. Make sure that you subscribe and like to the podcast, to the show, to the channels. If you're listening to us on iTunes, please drop a review. Let us know how you're feeling with the stuff that we're putting out there on a regular basis. And by all means, if you have the ability to drop a comment. Let us know what you want to, what kind of conversation you want to have. This is a two-way street, right? So we come up with a lot of stuff that's immediately impacting our lives, all right? But it doesn't mean that we can't talk about different topics.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, most of the things that we come across, I mean, that we start talking about is because we're face to face with them. You know, I mean, it's part of the daily stuff, right? That we just reflect upon. But let us know your thoughts, have a conversation, and we'll take it from there. In the meantime, stay focused. You got this.